On this planet there is a magnificent array of beautiful animals. These animals come in many different shapes and sizes, and each of these animals has their own place in their ecosystem. One group of animals that can be found in every continent around the world are of course the birds. These birds are famously living dinosaurs, and since the time of the dinosaurs, some particularly strange species have evolved. In this video I'll be covering just a few of the strange bird species, as I'll be going through 5 of the strangest birds in the world. And for our first species we'll be heading over to Australia, as we have the lyrebird. Now I say the lyrebird, but there are actually 2 species alive today, the superb lyrebird and Albert's lyrebird. The superb lyrebird is one of the world's largest songbirds, and Albert's lyrebird is named after Prince Albert, the husband of Queen Victoria. At first glance these birds look very ordinary, apart from the elaborate tail feathers on the males. These tail feathers are the reason behind their name, as they're said to look like a lyre, which is a very old musical instrument. These pheasant-like birds are normally found in moist forests, where they root around the forest floor, looking for insects, spiders and worms amongst the leaf litter. The breeding cycle of a lyrebird is very long. They start breeding much later on in life than most other birds, but luckily for lyrebirds they can live to a grand old age of 30. When the males start trying to woo the females, you really get to see how impressive these birds can be. They not only put on an elaborate courtship display, but they also have the most impressive bird song in the world. Although this song is very beautiful, the lyrebird cannot take all the credit. This is because the lyrebird is a mimic and copies many of the sounds it hears. This is often other bird calls, but they're also known to mimic non-natural sounds, such as chainsaws, car engines, fire alarms and even rifle shots. This mimicry is extremely impressive and puts a lot of parrots to shame, but unfortunately this mimicry ability doesn't save them from the threat of extinction. Although these birds survived the devastating bushfires of 2019-20, they are still vulnerable. They are often affected by land clearing and logging, and many are still hit by cars. Like with all the birds I'm going to feature in this video, I will leave a donation link down below if possible, and hopefully in the future we'll see more of these talented birds in the wild. But for our next species we'll be heading to both Central and South America, as we have the common Potoo. Now this strange looking bird is a master of camouflage. It is related to both nightjars and frogmouths, and just like these birds it has an amazing ability to blend in with trees. There are 7 species of Potoo alive today, the largest being the great Potoo and the smallest being the rufous Potoo. As these birds are nocturnal, they're often seen resting during the day, and they are often found perched along tree branches. In this state they are often very well camouflaged, but when potential danger approaches, they tilt their head to the sky, and this further improves their camouflage. You may think this makes them more vulnerable, as it would seem that it could no longer look at the danger. This is in fact not the case, as they can even see you with their eyes closed. This is because they have small folds along their upper eyelids, and this allows them to see predators approaching. When the sun goes down, these birds transform from being sluggish and lazy into efficient predators. They are mostly insectivores, and mostly target moths, large flies and grasshoppers. To help them catch this prey they have strangely large mouths, and this gives them a somewhat goofy appearance. To match their mouths they also have huge eyes, and although these eyes help them see at night, they also add to their goofy appearance. This has made them one of the most memed birds, yet I'm sure these birds are very unaware of their fame. When a female is ready to lay her single egg, she often lays it in the same place she perches during the day. They don't add any materials to this nest, as this would make it easier to spot for would-be predators. Once these chicks hatch, they start at a young age, as they often mimic their parents by perching completely still. Because these birds are so well camouflaged, the best way to spot them is not by looking for them, but is instead by trying to hear them. They have a wide range of wonderfully weird calls, and these are more than loud enough to disturb some light sleepers. So out of all the birds in the world, the common Potoo is probably one of the strangest looking. But for our next species, we'll be heading over to the tropical Atlantic Ocean, as we have the magnificent frigatebird. Now frigatebirds are large seabirds, and the magnificent frigatebird is the largest species. It can have a wingspan of almost 2.5 meters, and this gives it the ability to soar effortlessly. This comes in very handy for this frigatebird, as they're not the most conventional seabirds out there. They are unable to sit on the water's surface, as their feathers are not fully waterproof, and they would eventually end up drowning. Instead, they feed on the wing, and of course tend to feed on fish, and they are known to be one of the main predators of flying fish, as well as catching their food the good old-fashioned way. These birds are also known for being big bullies. They indulge in kleptoparasitism, which involves harassing other birds, forcing them to give up their food, or even forcing them to regurgitate their food. This behavior is often very brutal, and some of the species they often target are the amazingly named blue-footed and red-footed boobies, as well as being brutal bullies. These birds can also be very magnificent. Males have a large red, big balloon-like sac, and when the mating season comes around, they spend up to 20 minutes inflating their sac until it looks like a large red piece of bubblegum. The females often find this irresistible, and if this wasn't enough, this sac also makes a very satisfying sound. After mating, both the male and female will look after the single egg, and after a year this elaborate process will start over once again. So even though this bird is a big bully, it really can put on a magnificent display. But for our next species, we'll be heading over to tropical East Africa, as we have the shoebill. Now this bird also goes by the name of whale-head or whale-headed stork, mostly because of its giant hollow bill. But in fact this bird is not a stork at all, and is more closely related to pelicans and herons. Its closest relative was thought to be the much smaller hammerkop, and this unique large bird was even known to the ancient Egyptians. These birds are masters of wetland environments, and are mostly found in large swamp habitats. In these areas they are very efficient predators, mostly going after fish, especially the African lungfish species. Although this may be some of their most favourite food, they are not known for being picky birds, and will even go after lizards, snakes and juvenile crocodiles. These birds are probably most famous for their menacing looks and their unnerving death stares. Although shoebill attacks on humans are rare, they have really earned their fierce reputation. Victorian photographers learnt this the hard way, as zoologist Stanley S. Flower wrote that this bird is by no means a safe bird for a stranger ignorant of its ways to approach, and he also wrote that this bird is capable of inflicting a very powerful bite. I have personally seen this particular specimen, and I'm sure a few of you out there would have seen it as well, as it actually lives in a zoo in Tokyo. Despite this bird being a very popular addition to this zoo, they are quite rare in zoos. They rarely breed in captivity, and over the last 100 years only 2 chicks have hatched in captivity. Unfortunately today this bird is a lot rarer than it used to be. It's currently listed as vulnerable, as their wetland habitats are being replaced with farmland. So hopefully with your help, in the future we'll get to see more of these impressive predators. But for our next species we'll be heading over to Australia and neighbouring countries, as we have the masked lapwing. These birds are often found along the edges of wetlands and other moist open environments. In these areas they spend most of their time looking for food, which in most cases is worms, insects and crustaceans. At first glance this bird may not seem too impressive, apart from the bright yellow mask on its face. In fact this bird has something that very few other birds have, as it's hiding 2 potentially dangerous weapons. These birds are probably best well known for their nesting habits. They are notoriously unfussy when it comes to creating a nest, and will often nest in urban environments, such as school playgrounds, golf courses, and even people's gardens. This may seem very harmless at first, but these birds protect their nests very aggressively. Because they build their nests on the ground, their eggs are very vulnerable, and when their chicks hatch, they are also very vulnerable. Because of this, parent masked lapwings will do anything to defend their young, and to defend their eggs. They often fake injuries to lure predators away from their nest, and will even resort to attacking would-be predators. Now this bird is also sometimes known as the spur-winged plover, and this is because they have 2 sharp spurs on their wings. Although these could be potentially dangerous, they are rarely actually used, and instead this bird tends to dive bomb predators. So if you're lucky enough to see these birds in the wild, it's best to keep your distance if they have a nest nearby. If you know of any other birds that could have been on this list, then let me know down in the comments below. But thank you for watching, I hope you enjoyed. If you liked it, please leave a like and subscribe if you want to see more videos like these. But until next time, goodbye.